Okay. And then, so when you, let's try to think here. You started performing at a lot of protests, and you kind of become sort of synonymous with playing music at like things like labor rallies down in Bayview. I know you play the May Day show every year about, don't you?
I do that every year. In let's see, 1886 is when the Bayview thing was.
Yeah.
Well, in 1986, they were going to commemorate it with these celebrations.
Okay.
So I've been playing that Bayview thing since 1986 every
Okay.
year.
Wow.
Every May Day. Once I guess I was on a road someplace and got somebody else to take my place, but
Okay. You know, and despite driving truck for so long, you ended up writing a lot of train songs. I noticed. Was it a kind of a grass is always greener situation, maybe, or?
no, I was always interested in trains. When my dad bought me an electric train when I was 8 years old, and I never lost interest in them.
Right.
And my father-in-law was a railroader, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe trucks are too close to the problem, you know.
Right.
I put out an album on Collector Records a while back called Still Feel Like Rolling. One side was train songs and one side was truck songs. And the truckers wouldn't buy it because the train songs were on there, and the railroaders wouldn't buy it because the truck songs were on there.
Well,
so there you are with your brains.
there's still copies available then.
There are. Actually, you could get that through the Smithsonian Institution, because that was Joe Glazer's label that was recorded on. And when Joe Glazer got too old, he donated his entire record business and all the records that he had made to the Smithsonian Institution. So it's weird because people come up to me and ask for my autograph on something from the Smithsonian, you know, and I never saw it before, you know.
Right. Wow. That's got to be a trip. I wanted to talk a little bit about the folk community in general. There's a lot of people that are it's very open in the sense of like everybody's playing each other's songs and recording versions of each other's songs. And I noted that you had songs that you had written were recorded by Pete Seeger. And then you also played a show or a concert 2 years ago, I think, with his sister Peggy, which I was at, and I really enjoyed a lot.
I don't know Peggy ever recorded any of my songs, but Pete Seeger did. He recorded I'm a Little Cookie. Mm-hmm. And I had his ear for a time over that song, you know. I tell you what it done for my ego. You can't imagine. How many people do you know that have had Pete Seeger sing one of their songs? You know.
Yeah.
But Peggy, I have some songs published in a labor anthology. And a copy of that when she was married to Ewan McCall and lived in England, a copy of that labor anthology went across her desk, and they were writing a little paper called New City Songster, and she wrote to me and asked me, could they reprint it in their paper, and I said, sure, that'd be fine, you know. And I said, as long as we're talking, would you like a record or two, you know, some of my other stuff? And she said, fine, send it. So I sent that off to England. Never heard from them again. I did get a copy of that New City Songster though that they mailed me.
Right.
And then Ewan died. Ewan McCall died, and she came back to the United States to live, and she was connected with a folk life center that was masterminded by a fellow by the name of Ralph Rensler, who was also connected with the Smithsonian, and they're going to celebrate her life, you know. And I get this phone call out of the blue one day, you know, it's Peggy Seeger, you know, would I like to come to Washington D.C. and sing with her on this Ralph Rensler Memorial Concert? You know. And, sure. You know, they'd take care of my airfare and my hotel room and a few bucks. You know. And, so she said, well, I'll send you my tapes and stuff and the songbooks and stuff so you can look at my material and see what you'd like to sing with me on, you know. So I picked out a couple songs and I told her about it and she said, well, that's not what I want. The one she wanted was Darling Annie, you know. That's what we sang at the Miramar, you know. So I learned to Darling Annie and we did a duet there in Washington D.C. and so every time she comes into Milwaukee, you know, she said, "You still know the song?" You know, and I think I sang 3 times at the Miramar with her. This last time I wasn't feeling good, so I didn't go. But Peggy Seeger is quite a lady.
Right. And, well, let's see. I did bring a copy of the latest CD that you put out with Lil Rev, and it's called Round the Campfire. And there's a song on here that was on the tribute to Utah Phillips that ended up getting nominated for a Grammy, the whole CD, right? So that's the popular Wobbly.
Popular Wobbly. Yeah. You want to hear that, I suppose.
Well, that's a good segue if you want to
sure.
go into that.
Well, you know, we didn't get the Wobbly. We got the Wobbly. We didn't get the nomination as Little Rev and I. We got the nomination as a group. There are like 40 other singers on this album. You know, everybody sings one song that Utah Phillips was connected with. But I got the letter from the guy that produced this thing. And he talked about doing something for Utah Phillips, and I had some stuff in the can. I had the Popular Wobbly that Little Rev and I had just finished recording, and I had a duet that I did with Utah Phillips, Solidarity Forever. You know, and I said, take your pick. And they took Popular Wobbly. I'm a mild-mannered man as I can be, and I never hurt no one that I can see. But on me they put a ban, and they stuck me in the can. They go wild, simply wild over me. They accuse me of rascality, and I never hurt no one that I can see. But on me they put a ban, and they stuck me in the can. They go wild, simply wild over me. Then the sheriff, he went wild over me. He held out his gun where I could see. He was breathing rather hard when he saw my union card. He went wild, simply wild over me. Then the judge, he went wild over me. It was plain to see we never would agree. I just let the man obey what his conscience had to say. He went wild, simply wild over me. Then the jailer, he went wild over me. He slammed the door and he threw away the key. Don't it seem to be the rage to lock me in a cage? They go wild, simply wild over me. Oh, they go wild, simply wild over me. I'm referring to the bedbug and the flea. They disturb my slumber deep, and they rob me of my sleep. They go wild, simply wild over me. Little Rev is on here. Plays mandolin, you know, and right about now be time for a smoking mandolin solo. Blinkty blink, blinkty 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 blink, blinkty blink, blinkty blink, blinkty blink, Blinky, 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 bling. Blinky, 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 bling, blinky, bling, blinkety, bling, bling, bling. How will the roses grow wild over me when I go to that land that is to be? When the soul and body part in the stillness of my heart, will the roses grow wild over me? Better known as a popular wobbly. So we got a lot of miles out of that song, Little Rev and I.
Sure. Did you ever get a call from the Wobblies at all?
Once in a while, but you know, I don't know how to. I don't pay dues. I don't pay dues, and
Sure.
I figure if they want to use me, I'll be glad to come and sing for them. You know, and they can take the dues out of that, and that works for a while. But some people got their nose up tight about that. You know, but I support the Wobblies.
Sure. Oh, I love that song. It's a great song. What prompted you and Little Rev to get together initially?
Oh, I met Little Rev years ago, and I was playing at a place on Lincoln Avenue called Nash's Irish Castle. Okay. You remember that?
I don't.
Nash's Irish Castle. Nash claimed to be a member of the IRA. Whether he was or not, I don't know. But if you played in there on a Saturday night, you better be playing Irish music, you know. But on Friday night, political music was okay, and I had a lot of it, you know, union songs and just stuff, and he liked the political stuff because it would make people drink more. They'd get to arguing, you know, and they'd start drinking more, and so I'm in there playing, and here come Little Rev in there with mouth organs and a band. It looked like Pancho Villa, like a bandolier of these things, you know. I said to myself, this kid wants to play, you know. And he was just going to college then, you know.
Right.
So I invited him to come up and do some blues and stuff, you know, and we've been friends ever since.
Oh, that's great.
So he's he plays with lots of different people, and you know, I think, I don't know how to do this modestly, but I think he enjoys playing with me, you know, and so he hunts up a few gigs every year for us to do, you know. We do them together. We're gonna do one. We're gonna do one in Bayview in November.
Okay.
At the Beulah Britton House. Beulah Britton House is a house where immigrants used to go when Bayview was getting settled, you know. They worked at the steel mill and that.
I'll make sure to put some information on the radio site.
I don't know the date offhand, but if you email me, I'll send it.
I'll look it up. We'll have that all squared away probably by the end of the day. Yeah.
So anyway, we get together and we're doing. Everybody kept saying, "Well, when are you gonna make a record? When are you gonna make a record?" Well, we made one. There. It was the plan was 3 covers and 3 originals each. So give us 12 songs. And, so it's what it is.
All right. Well, it got all the way up to 14 tracks on here.
I don't know how there could be 14.
Something happened there somewhere. Something along
I
the
must
line.
have missed one.
Well, one of them's only 30 seconds long.
Well, that's the tag, the chaser.
He snuck that one in, right?
That was a whole song. It was "Don't You Leave Me Here," but it sounded so poor that jazz musicians use a chaser at the end of the set, you know. And so,
Right.
That's where that idea came from. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But.
Well, there's another song that is a favorite of mine that's on there is "Glide Sully Glide," which is a really nice song about Sully Sullenberger who landed the plane on the Hudson.
Right. I sang that at Miramar. I don't know whether I could do it or not, but.
Oh, that's all right. I'm just bringing that up because I like that one so much. There's another really great one on here is I Want to Be President.
Sure, I didn't write that though.
And then there's a Midnight Special, Shorty George, lots of good stuff on here. So if anybody gets a chance, check that one out. Some of your more famous songs that, like the one that Pete Seeger recorded. What's this? The Cookie song.
Cookie. I suppose I gotta do that too.
Well, you don't have to do anything, Larry.
The Cookie song. We went to a festival, my wife and I, and we were in a workshop with a fella who was singing about how tough it was to be an orphan. And my wife said to me, it might be tough to be an orphan, but nobody writes songs about the kind of kids that I teach. She worked in a sort of a Montessori school where they had Down syndrome kids and slow starters and developmentally disabled kids. Some that were just sorely in need of some kind of self-esteem. We had this cookie company in Milwaukee. It was still there in the building. It's called Matson's these days, but back years ago it was Johnson Cookie Company. And I don't know, Matson, I guess, makes the ingredients for cookies and sends it all over the land and somebody else makes them. But when it was Johnson's, they made cookies. And they put a shingle out on the side of the building about once a week and say, broken cookies. And you could go there and buy 5 pounds of these broken cookies for $1.25.
Oh, wow.
Once you started eating them, you wouldn't know the difference between these and the good ones that you bought in the store that cost 89 cents and maybe only got 8 of them in a package. Yes, I am. I was made by the cookie man. On my way from the cookie pan, a little piece broke off of me. A little piece broke off of me. A little piece broke off of me. But I can taste just as good as a regular cookie can. I'm a little chocolate bar, I am. I was made by the chocolate man. On my way from the chocolate stand, I got a little bend in me. I got a little bend in me. I got a little bend in me. But I can taste just as good as a regular chocolate bar can. I'm a little Tootsie Roll, I am. I was made by the Tootsie Roll man. On my way from Tootsie Roll land, got a little twist in me. Got a little twist in me. I can taste just as good as a regular Tootsie Roll can. I'm a little gumdrop, yes I am. I was made by the gumdrop man. On my way from the sugar can, got a little dent in me. Got a little dent in me. I got a little dent in me. But I can taste just as good as a regular gumdrop can. Yes, I am. was made by the cookie man. On my way from the cookie pan, a little piece broke off of me. Now I'm not as round as I might be, but I'll taste good, just wait and see. And I can love back just twice as hard as any regular cookies can.
Lovely.
That's the cookie.
The cookie song. And that's also your email address.
Well, Cookie Man, I'd take the I out of there because they were going to charge me more if
What?
I could only have so many digits, you know, and so it's Cookie Man. That's otherwise it would be probably just as well because somebody else probably has that dominion anyway, and
That's very strange. Well, I was going to ask you about being the poet laureate for the Wisconsin's AFL-CIO, the labor poet laureate, as it were.
I don't know, I don't know what that means, labor poet laureate. Lots of people sing labor songs,
Sure.
and lots of them come carpetbagging in Milwaukee and sing labor songs. I be the laureate, but they don't always hire me, but I suppose that's it's like a lifetime achievement award, you might say, because when they give you one of those, you're all done, That's
When did they give that to you?
well, I don't know. I've had that laureate thing for quite a while, but I did a lot of picket line work, and that's probably why. And it isn't that I've written so many labor songs. All my songs are about labor because I am a laborer.
Right.
One way or the other, they're about work, or at least the working class, and that I don't want to hang too much notoriety on that labor poet laureate stuff. I got one from the hobos too,
Okay.
So I'm officially dubbed a hobo troubadour, whatever that means, and I won one year. I won a Whammy for children's music,
Okay.
which what is that?
Wow. It's moment of recognition.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I suppose.
I don't win any awards myself, so I don't know how it feels.
You might as well not win any because no money comes.
No.
It'd be nice if you got a big budget, to buy a new guitar or at least some strings once in a while.
That's an idea. If you win an award, you should get something to, either at least fix your guitar or maybe upgrade or something.
Years ago, when Cookie was hot, everybody was singing the damn thing, and I got a thing called the Michael Carter Award in La Crosse at the Great River Folk Festival.
Okay.
Michael Carter was a blues man who got killed in an automobile accident, and they wanted to memorialize him, so they made this award. Cookie was hot, and so the award went to the person who had made the biggest impact in folk music for the year from Wisconsin. Well, the Cookie did that. And so I got the Michael Carter Award. I got invited to the next festival, and I got $50 gift certificate for any. I could go to the craft show and pick out anything I wanted. So that's
All right.
that's the extent of my money making as an award winner.
Well, doesn't always pay off the way that we anticipate, I suppose. Do you have any? I was going to ask if you had any of those labor songs that aren't as didn't get as hot, maybe, that you wanted to play.
That didn't get as hot. I'd have to think some on that. Labor songs. Well, yeah, I have a labor song. If it's a railroad song.
Sure.
Railroad, they learned that they could get rid of 3 more people if they took the caboose off the end of the train, and so they did that. And what they have in place of the caboose is a computer that goes onto the last car. It has a red light on there and flashes on and off, and it's hooked up to the airline, and it monitors the air pressure so the engineer can know what his air pressure is through a readout up in the cab 100 cars away, you know. The railroad in their infinite wisdom poetically named these things the end of train device. So I sang this for an old-time railroader in Wichita, Kansas, worked for the Santa Fe Railroad. He said to me, on the Santa Fe, we call those Freds. And I don't know, I don't want to say it over the air, but Fred, it had something to do with the rear end device, you know. So my engineer friends tell me that people shoot at Fred, and I believe it, because Fred ain't paying any union dues, you know, and he's replacing 3 more people. I've been collecting Fred stories because everybody has one about the rear end device, and the best one I saw so far was a freight train without a caboose. Freight train without a caboose. Doesn't that remind you of those gowns you get when you're in a hospital? Something's missing from the modern ways. These'll never be the good old days. You can hardly find a smiling face on an end of train device. Like to take my little grandson down to where a young boy's dreams were found, but I couldn't show him any romance around an end of train device. Nothing's colder than an empty jug or the ring down in a coffee mug. Like a heart that don't return your love, an end of train device. Like a barroom after closing time, or a hobo down to his last dime. There ain't nothing colder than the dollar sign or the end of train device. Caboose was made to say the end. You're gonna miss it like a longtime friend, and you'll never wave at any railroad man on an end of train device. Like to take my little grandson down to where a young boy's dreams are found, but I couldn't show him any romance around an end of train device. Nothing's colder than an empty jug or the ring down in a coffee mug. Like a heart that don't return your love, an end of train device. Like a barroom after closing time, or a hobo down to his last dime. There ain't nothing colder than the dollar sign or the end of train device. I sent this song down to my friend who works for the Union Pacific in Kansas City. He wrote back and he said, Larry, I'd like to sing that song of yours, but I don't have any grandkids and I can't sing that verse. Would you mind very much if we wrote a verse that we can sing down here? And I said, you be my guest. Lonesome whistle in the distance wails for automation and the welded rails. No one's making union scale on an end of train device. Like a barroom after closing time, or a hobo down to his last dime. There ain't nothing colder than the dollar sign or the end of train device.
I read in your book, Gone to the Doggerel, the book of poems or songs that didn't make it. I think you got a quote in there about something. No one ever wrote a bad train song.
Well, I don't know who said. Woody Guthrie said that. I think.
Woody Guthrie.
Sure.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Sure.
That kind of proves it. I remember seeing those. I used to. My family, we got bad times with trains, actually, in a horrible way. But I don't want to get into that. But I used to walk the tracks all the time when I was a kid up in Slinger.
Sure.
And it was the place when you were a kid, for some reason, you just went and hung around by the train tracks. There was nothing there. It was just rocks and, woods and stuff. But I remember seeing those red lights after the train would go by, because you had to duck. You had to hide from the train.
Sure.
Obviously, you didn't want to get run over, but you also didn't want the engineers to see you, because the myth was, or maybe it's true, I don't know, that they would take your picture and send it to the cops or some. That was what my grandma used to tell me, so that we wouldn't go down there. But so we'd always hide so that they couldn't see us. And then after we'd get up, we'd see that red light, and we never knew what that was. And now that I've heard that song, I know what that is.
Well, I don't think they take your picture and call the cops. They're down on hobos a little bit because of 911,
Sure.
That, they don't want anybody monkeying around with freight equipment,
Right.
But
someone once showed me. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that, but there's a methodology to train hopping, I guess, that I was never aware of until I met somebody that was doing it. And you got to get to know all the lines that run wherever you're trying to get to. You got to know where you're going. Sure. Yeah. But there's some kind of schedules out there that you can get a hold of, and I'm just like, that just seems like a lot. That seems like so much more work. I think that in the end, what we pay for with public transportation and stuff like that is to not have to think about all those things.
Well, I don't know. There's hobos and there's hobos and there's hobos. Certainly the kind of hobos that were in the 30s, when everybody was riding freight trains to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, are if they're still alive, they're very fragile, And
sure.
But then there's a group of guys who just ride for the kicks.
Mm-hmm.
They keep a credit card in their shoe in case they get in jail,
Sure.
And then there's certain group they call stamp tramps, which they ride around wherever the handouts are to be the best, And then there's some kind still do it. They go and work the sugar beet, pick sugar beets, But the railroads more and more are going to solid loads like all coal or all oil, and
Yeah.
all grain cars. And the grain cars are about the only thing left that you can ride on,
Right.
And you can't ride on all of those. But you have to know where you're going, right? There's been attempts, to catalog all which number train went where, but the railroad don't know themselves half the time,
Right.
The best way to find out where a train's going is ask one of the crew.
Well, it seems like that the train hopping and the that kind of way of life is just kind of gone to some extent, just by virtue, like you said, of solid loads and not being able to get from place to place. But there's not a lot of, I guess, just regular old goods in general are hauled by train, it seems like.
No, boxcars, and if there are boxcars, are different than they used to be because they all got plug doors.
Mm-hmm.
And the railroad learned that if you keep the doors closed, the wind resistance cuts down. It's easier to pull more cars than if there's no wind resistance.
Sure.
It's be pretty. Every now and then you read a horror story about some guy got locked up in a boxcar and they didn't find him for 3 weeks. And couldn't get out.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a whole carload of Mexicans that were illegal aliens. The coyote put them in a grain car down inside, and they pulled the grain car up somewhere in the Midwest and put it on a sidetrack, and it sat there in the hot sun. and these guys couldn't get out. You know,
jeez.
They all died in there. So
That's terrible.
The whole works. You know. So it's not the best mode of transportation.
Yeah, certainly not glamorous.
But and I think there's a certain romantic element connected with it, though, that'll probably go on forever, you know, because
Sure.
people are writing books about, you know, when they rode the trains and stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever have to train hop to get from place to place?
I rode a couple of them, but I rode more trains in the head end as a guest to the railroad, you know, because of the train songs.
Sure.
You know, they come on up here, you know.
Right.
You know, so.
How many different kinds of engines have you ridden on?
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that.
I mean, you've ridden on, you know, steam engines.
Steam engines, diesels.
Diesels.
I rode. I have no idea how many different kinds.
I was just curious, you know, the different kinds of the old engines are getting retired all the time, and I saw something the other day about the getting used for movies and whatnot, and they keep certain lines alive out in the western part of the country, just for the sake of being able to film, you know, period pieces.
I have a friend by the name of Ed Ellis. He's the president or vice president of a railroad called the Rio Grande and La Vida Pass Railroad, and it's part of the old Rio Grande Western Railroad. And he has a folk concert, by the way. I played 2 summers for him.
Okay.
Excuse me. You ride up to La Vida Pass. It takes half a day to get up there. You get off and do a concert. And then it takes a half a day to ride back down, you know. And but anyway, this is a working railroad.
Sure.
And they have a big yard there with all kinds of antique equipment in it. It's just what you said for the movies and stuff like
right.
that. They come and you know they need old time boxcars. They got them there. You know.
Okay. That's got to be a place to visit. I'll have to.
But it's in Alamosa, Colorado, where the headquarters is, but it's Rio Grande and La Vida Pass Railroad. And they don't have those concerts only in the summertime because it's in the mountains.
Sure.
It's, you know, they start getting snow up there in, you know, end of August already, you know.
Right. Everything becomes impossible and impassable, I suppose. We're getting down to it, actually. I'm just looking at the clock. I didn't know if you wanted to go for another song before we were to sign off.
Another song. Let me do this one for you. With, I like to do political songs. I go to Galesburg, Illinois.